Bobby Kennedy being appointed at HHS secretary is just phase one. This is just step one. Understand that there is a confirmation fight that is looming. Praise God that we have a Senate majority. We have 53 seats in the United States Senate. It should be 54, 55, should be Kerry Lake and also Hovde and maybe even Rogers, upwards of 56. Could you imagine confirmation fights, Andrew, with 56 senators? Woo! I mean, that would be something. Someone tried to throw me in the cabinet. No, I'm kidding. That would not happen. I still wouldn't get confirmed. Nor would I want to be a cabinet secretary, for the record, Media Matters. Actually, Media Matters have been slipping on their game a little bit. They're a little demoralized. Turns out they don't do as good of a job. And we got to get Hovde on the show. He's just terrific. We have a second election coming. We have a second election coming up. And that second election is confirmation. The second election is working Trump's nominees through the confirmation process. The Senate has advise and consent. Let's get John Thune, please, from last night on Brett Baer. Advise and consent is they weigh all the president's options and then they vote on them. Now, a lot of people say, we're not going to vote for Gates. Again, we went through this thoroughly yesterday. Okay, who? What are your names? I'd like to know that. It's all in the shadows. It's all just a bunch of leaking. It's all a bunch of voodoo. Bobby Kennedy. So let me just go in order of the toughest confirmation fights. You ready? This might surprise you. The toughest of all the confirmation fights, number one, will be Tulsi Gabbard. That is one that Republicans and Democrats will try to come together and block the Ascendant Restraint and Realism foreign policy project to end the neoconservative warmongering monopoly in D.C. The hardest will be Tulsi Gabbard. The second hardest will be Matt Gaetz. The third hardest will be Bobby Kennedy. And the fourth hardest will be Pete Hegseth. Let me say that again. The hardest confirmation fights in order will be Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, Bobby Kennedy, and Pete Hegseth. Now, you would think if we have a Senate Republican majority with 53 seats, that this shouldn't be that difficult. Now, mind you, if you lose Collins and Murkowski when it comes to Matt Gaetz or Tulsi, you're then at 51. But then we can lose one more. We could lose a McConnell or something, and we're at 50. We can't go below 50, and 50, J.D. Vance, is the tiebreaker. So it's okay. We get down to 50, we'll be okay. So we can lose 3. However, we shouldn't even want to get that close on some of these. Now, you could also entertain recess appointments, which, to the president's credit, he was pushing so hard to set the standard on recess appointment. And I liked what I saw last night out of the new Senate Majority Leader, Mr. Thune. I shot him a note. We said it on Twitter, where he said all options are on the table. He said, we're ready to go to war on recess appointments. So, Senator Thune, we said we are watching, and we want to see what kind of senator you really are. We want to see what do you have to bring to the table here. Let's play cut 418, please.
So you've said that you would do recess appointments if it came to that. What's the threshold for getting to that point for recess appointments?
Well, what I said is, Brett, and I think this is that all options are on the table, including recess appointments. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll find out fairly quickly whether the Democrats want to play ball or not. And I think part of it is getting these folks. We'll start having confirmation hearings as soon as the new Senate is sworn in January. President takes the oath of office January 20th. By the time he takes the oath of office, hopefully a lot of those nominees will be through their confirmation hearings and will be ready to act on them on the Senate floor. And then it's a question of how much do the Democrats resist or object or try to block those nominations from going forward. And we're going to grind them out. I mean, we're just going to keep consistently moving, and we'll see what kind of cooperation we get. And then we'll, like I said, we'll make decisions about where do we go from there.
Look, I mean, judging on the scale of kind of how we're doing, I'll take it, Mr. Thune. I'd like to see a little bit more fire and brimstone, but for Senate leadership, that's better. Everybody, I want you to arrest, celebrate this historic election. Enjoy it. You did it. However, coming in January, we're going to have another little mini election. That's going to, and here's what's so exciting. Do you live in Idaho? Do you live in Kansas? Do you live in Arkansas? Do you live in Mississippi? Do you live in South Dakota? Those 5 states. You guys might have felt, oh, we had no role in the Trump election out of battleground state. No, 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 no. Guess what? Your senators very well might end up being the issue of Trump not getting his cabinet. We might be coming to a city near you. For those of you in deep red states, Idaho, Kansas, South Dakota, Mississippi, Arkansas, those are the big 5, and then maybe North Carolina. You might have felt as if you did not play a role in Trump's movement. There's still something you can do. We'll tell you what that is as it materializes, but red state senators from blood red states, they better give Trump his cabinet. Mr. Kane is with us, Citizen Kane. My man, it still has not set in, Mr. Kane. We won the White House. Our movement did it. Mr. Kane, welcome back as always.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, Charlie, whether or not we had spoken since the election, these days, but I thought we actually have. These days run together, and now, you know, there's no time to relax, right? You celebrate for what, maybe 15 minutes, and then you make plans to start getting Trump's agenda through the House and Senate.
Let's go through this. There's another election that is looming, and it's time for us to, let the grassroots celebrate. By the way, guys, I hope the champagne is flowing. I hope you guys just go as crazy because you deserve it. I'm not even going to tell you got to go to work now. I never say that. Andrew will tell you, but I'm not doing that. I'm working. Work is cathartic for me. However, you guys need to go just chill out. Yeah, Andrew can have his 100-year bottle of wine. However, I will say, guys, in mid-January it'll be battle stations again. Yeah. And mid-January is because of a confirmation fight. The Republican senators are going to try to quietly kill Trump's cabinet. Some of them, not all of them. I'm talking about 5 or 6 old bulls, specifically from states like, and it is not only these states, Idaho, South Dakota, Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi. Kane, can you comment on that, please, and the importance of us getting Trump his cabinet?
Yeah, I like what you said. I mean, you know my life, Charlie. You know, I'm sitting in an office. I've got a TV on, watching monitors all day. And so first, when the Pete Hegseth name came up, actually, I'll jump back to Rubio first. My thoughts are essentially the same as yours on Rubio. I was not upset by the pick. I know he's a little bit hawkish, perhaps for our taste. But look, what you want more than anything in Secretary of State is loyalty, someone who's going to implement the president's foreign policy and not implement a version of the president's foreign policy that we might have seen in previous Secretary of States. So I thought it was a fantastic pick. Then you jump to Hegseth, which I was jumping out of my chair. I love the guy. I don't know him. You know him. You know these people I don't, but I was jumping out of my chair. And then when we got to Matt Gaetz, I don't even have words to describe that. And then you had that great video of people haven't seen it of Matt doing a little chauffeur work for you in Palm Beach. And that was fantastic.
For the record, it is a funny story. Matt and I were hanging out over the weekend before, and I don't want to say too much, but I was as surprised as anybody when Matt got announced. And we were just hanging out, and I just did a TikTok video. Little I know, I was being driven around by the next attorney general.
Which is hilarious. I did not know. I think that's interesting for people to know that caught you off guard. I figured you guys had 30 minutes, an hour advance warning or something, but it was a great clip. And so we had that, right? And Matt Gaetz, I have to keep the enemy on television at all times. So I've had MSNBC on mute for 7 days, basically straight. And they did not take Matt Gaetz off the Chiron for 30 hours. He was the only thing on the Chiron until Robert Kennedy. So we sort of end up there. These picks keep eclipsing themselves. It's just astonishing. I'm a huge fan of Kennedy, right? You and I, we've been around politics for a while. We know there's no perfect nominee. We know that, but I've always liked Kennedy. I even liked him as a potential before J.D. Vance came on the scene. I even saw him as a potential running mate. I think that's how much power he has to bring Democrats and bring independents. So I love the candidates. Now let's talk about those those blood red states that aren't really helping us. I think that's going to have to be part of our focus. If there are problems with Kennedy getting through, with with Hegseth getting through, with Matt Gaetz getting through. We're going to have to use all the pressure of the Charlie Kirk show and CFP Nation to let these senators know that we will primary them. That's,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on
just
that? Is that going to be the strategy?
No, I totally agree. Again, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. We're going to give everyone an opportunity in the Senate to do the Senate thing. Advise and consent. Listen, give Matt Gaetz the toughest questions. Give Tulsi Gabbard the toughest question. No one here is advocating for kid gloves. You would agree, right? Kane, if these nominees want to be a cabinet secretary, you have to be able to go through the grilling. We do not want any special treatment. However, once all of that is exhausted, right, and there are no major red flags, if you are still holding up Trump, his cabinet, and delaying it, and you're saying, oh, I won't vote for him, well, then we're going to have a problem, especially if you're from a state like Idaho, South Dakota, Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi. And let me just give you, I read this off yesterday, okay? There were lots of these people. Can you resend the Garland list? A lot of these people from these blood red states, Mr. Kane, that voted for Merrick Garland. And it is going to be a very, very difficult messaging campaign. If you are the senior senator from Idaho, to explain to your constituents, let me see, how did Idaho? Okay. Oh, they both voted no. Okay. Crapo voted no, and the other one was present. Okay. So let's take another one. Shelley Moore Capito from a super red state of West Virginia. Okay. She voted here. She voted yes for Garland. Let's take that one. She's in leadership now. Kane, it will be very difficult for Shelley Moore Capito to say that, okay, I voted for Merrick Garland, but I'm not going to vote for Matt Gaetz. Your thoughts, Mr. Kane?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach to take. You talked about just giving them a fit, before we get to this stage, giving each of his nominees a fair shake in the Senate in the confirmation process. What else could Matt Gaetz ask for? The guy dominates all forms of debate. I look forward to that. Give him the toughest questions you can. Let him answer for himself. And look, before getting to that angle on Capito, we both know that I heard someone speaking on Laura Ingraham last night. They were talking about the first recess generally comes right before President's Day. So that's in February. So that would be the first opportunity for Trump to have to do this. And then in that case, if this doesn't work, Gaetz would be able to stay on before having to sort of face any sort of formal confirmation all the way to the end of 2025. You probably know the reasons why he would have to then face that formal confirmation that the recess appointment wouldn't actually last. But as a strategy, I think what you're saying is a fantastic. What better dichotomy or juxtaposition can you say? You voted yes for Merrick Garland, who you knew
Bingo.
Or you had a very good idea was going to end up criminally charging the former president of the United States, but you're not willing to listen to Matt Gaetz, or you're not willing to vote for Matt Gaetz. I think that strategy is a good one to start out with. It's sort of fun to game plan this stuff. We've got a couple of months ahead of time, but I hope that there's sort of a groundswell and the base continue. I'm going to be pushing that the base continues to call these senators who are already speaking out publicly and saying they may be in opposition to certain of these candidates. We're going to direct the base at CFP to get on the phone and not stop ringing these folks until they understand that this is Trump's agenda. This is part of the mandate. You give the president the benefit of the doubt. You give him the candidates, the nominees that he asked for, unless there's something wholly egregious. And there is nothing like that so far with any of these candidates.
Yeah, and so, look, understand, they have a majority because of Trump, not because of them. And Mr. Kane, I could prove this to you. How did their Senate candidates do in comparison to Trump? There was not a single Senate candidate in any of the 7 battlegrounds that exceeded Trump. In fact, they all lagged Trump, and many of them were so far behind Trump that they were not successful. Hovde, Rogers, Lake, and Brown.
Yes.
And obviously there were a lot of problems with the Lake and the Brown race with election integrity and Hovde. Point being is that these guys do not have a majority because of people wanted Senate Republicans. It's because of the Trump movement and the Trump agenda. And what drives me nuts, Mr. Kane, and I will be telling this story very loud, and there's no days off here. This is warfare, is that these guys have contempt sometimes for the Trump voter and yet they're in leadership because of the Trump voter.
It's a good way to put it. You know, who am I thinking of? The People's Pundit, Rich Barris, is out there. I've got a headline, 2 headlines still in the stack saying, listen up, Republicans, loud and clear. You were not elected again. Donald Trump was elected again. The numbers show these are Trump voters. I don't know what the average is. I'm going to just call it +5. I think Trump did on average about 5 points better than the senators in the red states. He still brought them along. He brought Bernie Moreno in Ohio, and he brought other senators along, but they trailed him, and it was only because of his coattails. There is a special class. I want to say it's at least 10 million. It might even be 15 million voters that only vote for Trump. He is the one that drives these people to the polls. And I don't want to actually, that's a discussion we need to have for another time, is how we make sure that when Trump is no longer on the ticket in 2028, we can still sort of get this drive. But these senators, any of them wishy-washy, wondering about approving his nominees, remember what Charlie just said and what Rich Barris has said. These are Trump voters. These are not Republican voters, and you best not forget it.
Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. We're doing so much good work here at Turning Point USA. Also, get your tickets to AmFest. That's amfest.com, the biggest party of the year in Phoenix Convention Center. We have Tucker Carlson and really big speakers coming. I'll be there. It's going to be unbelievable. Meet your future husband, future wife. It's going to be great. Amfest.com, amfest.com. Get there. Go get the tickets. It's going to be amazing. And again, please subscribe and hit this bell. We appreciate it. And if you listen to audio podcasts, subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. That's Charlie Kirk Show podcast. We won, everybody. We won. I need to get this hat. Daisy, can you get me one of these hats? We won. And if you guys want a limited edition signed MAGA hat right here, last thing I'll say is become a member, members.charliekirk.com, to get a limited edition MAGA hat. We have 5,000 to send out, don't we, Daisy?
Over, like 8,000 now.
We have 8,000 hats I have to sign. 8,000 hats. God bless.